Over 45% of the population in the United States has received at least one vaccination shot. But that number might not be climbing much higher anytime soon. Why is that? Hello, and welcome to the show about fun facts and a little bit of science. Today, we are talking about the history of vaccine hesitancy. We will go over a few key moments throughout history where we have seen resistance to vaccinations. But first, let's catch up on our current situation. We are almost halfway through 2021. A global pandemic has left hundreds of thousands dead, and many are dealing with side effects long after recovering from COVID-19. Some places are seeing a new spike in cases as vaccines are scarce and social distancing restrictions are being lifted. India is in an awful situation right now, and Prime Minister Modi hasn't given a televised speech to the nation since April 20th. Month after month, we watch across the globe as people continue to die, including loved ones. Yet, there are still large groups of people that straight up refuse to be vaccinated. Why is that? Hasn't history shown us that vaccines work? Well, yes, but it also shows us that this refusal to get a vaccination is nothing new. In the last 10 years alone, we have seen large waves of misinformation flood the internet about vaccines, with false claims like vaccines cause autism. They just don't. Sometimes this misinformation is for political or ideological reasons, and sometimes it's just plain ignorance. Ignorance in the sense that you just don't have the knowledge, not that you're stupid. And for those of you that say you don't want to put anything unnatural in your body, well, I get it. I don't think there's anything more American than standing up against putting chemicals and synthetic ingredients in our bodies. We are definitely known for our all-natural foods, right? 100% real. No genetically modified organisms, no overly complicated list of ingredients. Heck, we don't even take medicines because they have chemicals. Look, everything is made up of chemicals, including our bodies. Oxygen, that's a good chemical. Arsenic, that's a bad one. So some are harmful and others are not. In fact, some all-natural medicines can cause side effects and be incredibly harmful. Actually, green tea extract can cause liver failure if the dose is too high. All of this just means you should be consulting with your doctor about taking any new medications or supplements. Trust doctors and scientists. What we see now is actually a pattern throughout history in regards to vaccine hesitancy. Things like anxiety about unnatural substances in the body and vaccines as government surveillance or weapons. Well, others have concerns in regards to faith. As mentioned in my other video about mRNA vaccines, fetal cells are not in vaccines, and I will link that video down below. The specific concern around any given vaccine really depends on the cultural anxiety of a given time and place. For example, with countries that are in the middle of a civil war, people have fear of vaccines being used as government weapons to wipe out specific groups of people. Historically, the ideal way to ease someone's mind about vaccines is by building trust and having conversations with their family doctor. Today, we seem to deny the intelligence and recommendation of those doctors and put all of our faith in a family member on social media that shared false information. Let's go back to the 1700s, smallpox. In Boston alone, the disease would take the lives of nearly 15% of those infected. Some locations would see death rates as high as 30%. Benjamin Franklin rejected the vaccine, but would later watch his own son die from smallpox, where he would later state he regretted his decision. The main reason for people refusing the vaccine in the 1700s, well, they felt it was unnatural to interfere with one's relationship with God. Being that Boston suffered great casualties to this disease, Massachusetts passed the first vaccination law in 1809. It required the citizens of the state to receive the smallpox vaccine. As one could guess, this created a problem among the people, but it didn't stop other states from passing similar laws, and by 1853, the UK passed their Vaccination Act that required parents to have their children vaccinated by the age of 3 months. Thus, the Anti-Vaccination League of London was formed. At this time, the poor population rarely received any medical treatment, so they believed that these mandatory vaccines were malicious. Throughout most of the 1800s in the US, however, most had accepted the vaccine, and thanks to it working, the smallpox outbreaks dropped significantly. But much like we are seeing now, people started going about their lives as normal and vaccination rates fell, which, you guessed it, resulted in another outbreak of smallpox in the 1870s. This led to states enforcing new laws around vaccinations. In the 1980s, there was a group named the National Vaccine Information Center, which happens to be the most influential anti-vaccine organization in the United States. And it all started with a documentary that aired on television claiming that a particular vaccine was causing seizures and brain damage. And while the full study actually stated there could be fever-based seizures, there was no brain damage or long-term effects from the vaccine. But that was all conveniently left out of the documentary. Funny how information can be twisted and left out in an attempt to prove something. Now, for one of the latest issues we are most likely all familiar with, 1998, the link to autism. An idiot named Andrew Wakefield published a report claiming the MMR vaccine, that's measles, mumps, and rubella, caused autism in 12 children. He falsified his data, meaning he changed the real data to something that fit his narrative. That narrative? He invested tons into a vaccine for measles. So if people were getting a 3-in-1 vaccine, his single disease solution would be a flop and he would lose tons of money. So he lied about MMR. This wasn't uncovered until 2010. This meant that 12 years of false claims about autism from vaccine had already swayed massive groups of people. And we still see this claim today, which is really sad. The guy straight up lied so he could make money, but people still believe him. Oh, and he lost his medical license because of the whole, lying thing. In 2000, we eliminated measles from the US, but in 2014, there was a large outbreak. So California passed a law requiring all children receive CDC-recommended vaccines in order to attend school, regardless of the parents' personal beliefs. Misinformation leads to many people being hurt. It might be yourself, your children, or someone you love, or someone you don't even know. Thanks to vaccines, we have stamped out more than 14 diseases in the US. We tend to forget that things like polio, a disease that can cause paralysis, was once very common. In the 1950s, polio had reached a peak of 60,000 cases. Children suffered from paralysis, disability, and even death. But thanks to a vaccine that was approved within hours after a study, production began immediately and saved lives. And look, people are still alive today that suffered the side effects of polio, walking around on crutches because they weren't able to get the vaccine quick enough. So why aren't we putting the lives of children before the rest of us? Vaccinations will help prevent these children from dealing with life-altering changes due to COVID, or any disease for that matter. I mean, we are aware of long-term effects of contracting COVID-19, and more issues keep coming up like psychiatric and neurological problems. Currently, 69% of adults in the US say they are willing to get the COVID-19 vaccine. We are now at the point in the COVID-19 pandemic where these willing to be vaccinated will be helping to save lives. And those that refuse the vaccine, well, for information regarding mRNA vaccines, be sure to watch my other video. I explain all of it, but the best thing that you can do if you have questions about getting vaccinated is to speak to your doctor. Don't listen to some guy on YouTube. As always, thanks for watching, and what did you learn today?